Hi, everyone. I love having the afternoon crowd, and we're going to make this lively to keep everybody engaged and interested. I know you've had great panels all day, but this is going to be a great one, too, because I'm here with Stacey Childress. She's one of the leading venture capitalists investing in education around the country. And, you know, we hear this term. Of course, we hear about Silicon Valley and venture capitalists. Now everyone is talking about ed tech and charter schools that need funding. So this term gets thrown around a lot. Tell us, what is educational entrepreneurship? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. Education entrepreneurship. Maybe if you think about education, if you think about entrepreneurship specifically, entrepreneurs are just people who see problems and treat them as opportunities and really run hard at trying to create a solution where maybe one hasn't existed before by mobilizing support and resources as they go, rather than waiting until they have everybody's permission and then working on it. So one way to think of education entrepreneurs are, people who see many of the challenges that we've been talking about all day, actually here, as definitely problems, but as opportunities to create big change. And then they usually create organizations. I mean, that's one real hallmark of an education entrepreneur, as opposed to, say, an activist or an organizer. They create organizations that help respond to whatever problems that they've identified. In education entrepreneurship, people do an awful lot of things and start lots of nonprofits and some for-profits. But the vast majority of them, at least from my observations over the years, you really can put them in three categories. So education entrepreneurs start schools, and so there's been lots of talk today about charter schools of various kinds. Those are education entrepreneurs. There's been a lot of that kind of activity in the last 15 or 20 years. Education entrepreneurs create tools of all kinds, including ones that schools need to be really successful, and so some of that's about education technology, data platforms, that kind of thing. And then a lot of activity, especially early in education entrepreneurship, so 20, 25 years ago, is focused on people, so schools, tools, and people. So you think about Teach for America. It's kind of the first of this version of education entrepreneurship in this kind of modern wave that we talk about, and from that came other kinds of people-focused entrepreneurial organizations like New Leaders for New Schools and the New Teacher Project and some others. So that's one way to put some structure around both the term and then the field of education.
All right, so the thing that sort of is the sexiest thing that we hear about that gets covered in Wired magazine and Recode is education technology. Everybody's interested in the shiny new tool. They either want to be the one who invented it, the one who markets it, or the first school that picks it up and really runs with it. So tell us about some of your most interesting ed tech ventures that you're backing.
Yeah, and so we actually support both for-profits and nonprofits in education technology. And that whole segment of technology, education technology, has grown over the last 5 years much, much faster than technology in general, both specifically in terms of kind of numbers of organizations created as a percentage of the total segment, and dollars, just capital flowing toward it. So it's as say, ed tech's hot, except for when it's not. And when it's not is when folks have a great idea that looks a lot like a business in another sector, and so they can raise a lot of money for it, but it really doesn't matter all that much for kids and teachers. So one of the things we focus on are, where are there real gaps, we would call them, in classrooms, if you use the word market, in the market for education technology that could really help teachers and kids, but for some reason either entrepreneurs don't see it clearly as an opportunity, or capital isn't flowing to it, so even those entrepreneurs who might have a great idea that could work there really can't fund their business. So a venture philanthropy like us can actually think a little differently about what the market looks like today versus where it might go.
So give us one or two quick examples of some ed tech that you've funded that has really been amazing or transformational.
Yeah, so a number of these founding teams actually have teachers on them, which I think is really terrific. And so there's a great company right here in DC called LearnZillion that was actually launched by a couple of guys who had been teachers and had worked in a school, had worked in a charter school network. And basically what LearnZillion does is make it possible for great teachers all over the country to bring their best lessons to bear. Video them, get feedback on them, make them better and better, but then make all of those lessons available to teachers all over the country either to get tips for themselves or to actually use in their classrooms as little nuggets of learning. So you've got, great teachers anywhere in the country being able to, they sometimes say, scale your excellence, make their great teaching available to help other teachers get better, but also to help students maybe access a lesson in a way that is more relevant to them or works better for them than another kind of teaching style.
That's fascinating. I like it because it's kind of like, we heard about what they do in Japan, which is so brilliant, where teachers, part of their whole system is that teachers mentor other teachers and watch other teachers teach and tell them what's good and what's not. So this is a way to put your own teaching out there and get feedback from sort of a massive community, massive online community.
And I think another comparison for LearnZillion and some others like it, a lot of us know about Khan Academy, which became, such a well-known nonprofit ed tech play a few years ago, and they got 12 or 15 million users a month or something, which is pretty outstanding in terms of usage. What LearnZillion does is allow many teachers to do what one person, Saul Khan, does through his platform and get a little more variety and have that coaching and back and forth. A couple of others I would mention really focus on, as I was saying earlier, where there are real gaps. And so Goalbook is just this great company started by a former special ed teacher that is specifically created to help special ed teachers better kind of manage and serve the kids in their class. And then another one is Elevation, which is spelled ELL, Ovation. And so it's a platform for English language learners and their teachers, again, to help kind of elevate everybody's practice and just manage the process of really responding well to English language learners.
Well, we might even have in this audience some future educational entrepreneurs amongst the teachers and administrators amongst us. So let me ask you, you're a nonprofit venture capital firm. How is that different from most of the for-profit venture capitalists that we hear about in Silicon Valley? Do you still want a return on your investment? Are you guys picking winners and losers in your own way?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we're 18 years old this year, and we've always had the possibility of supporting both nonprofits and for-profits through our model. And so basically the way we're like a venture fund is that we're not like a family philanthropy that has a big endowment that we're trying to figure out how to put to work. We raise money from lots of other philanthropists, both foundations like some of those who have sponsored the conference today, as well as high net worth individuals. We pool that money into a fund around specific priorities. So ours right now line up with schools, tools, and people. We're funding innovative schools and some ed tech, as well as diverse pipelines of diverse leaders. So people putting money into our fund are kind of, banking, if you will, on the expertise of our team and our ability to get some reach across, lots of different investments. We put that back out to work mostly as philanthropy into nonprofit school operators in the charter space, as well as some district schools, into nonprofit ed tech companies, but we'll also give grants to for-profit technology companies that are committed to focusing on some of these gaps, where, again, the market's not responding. They may be having trouble raising the early capital they need to go into a new market segment. We'll put that out to them as grants. And then in our diverse leaders work, it's all nonprofit. There's time in NewSchools history where we did invest equity into ed tech companies. About a year ago, we spun that out as a separate organization called Reach Capital, which is a venture capital fund that does make equity investments. Its investors expect a return on their capital, but they also are holding that fund to some mission-related goals around education, around outcomes for students. And so we're kind of sister organizations in that way.
Before we turn to the audience, I have one last question for you, which is, we hear so much about technology in the classroom, technology, how it makes kids better students, and yet these studies have just come out showing that kids who take notes on computers or even on tablets do worse in classes than those who are taking the old-fashioned handwritten notes. So I want to ask you, is all this technology really helping us, or is it just bells and whistles that seem cool, but we don't know that it's really doing anything?
Look, it can be either, right? And so on one of the last panels, just a couple before you and I came out, Dr. Dance and Brandon, who's a teacher in DC, were talking about using technology in more powerful ways. And when the team in the school or the teacher on their own is really trying to figure out, how can I better meet the needs of every single student in my class, kind of that more personalized environment that they were talking about a little while ago. Technology can actually be very helpful, but with a purpose. So not here's your tablet for note-taking, or go work on this app while I'm doing these other more important things. But in thinking about the design of an instructional environment, whether in a classroom or across a school, if you're taking as a goal, really understanding and then meeting the needs of every single student as one or a few of a number of learning activities and kind of instructional activities in a classroom or in a school, certain kinds of technology actually are creating, enormous gains for kids. And a lot of that is about providing better information about where their gaps are, both to the students themselves, giving them that power of being able to see where they're doing well and not doing well and some things they might do to get better, but also putting that information in the hands of their teachers, coaches, their parents, so that kind of web of support around a student is just able to have much better information for each and every child than one teacher, as the teacher was saying earlier, that has 25 or 35 kids trying to figure out how in the world am I going to identify and then meet the needs of every
All right.
student.
There might be a future education entrepreneur out there in the audience, so let's take one question, if we have a question. There should be someone with a microphone. I think someone is supposed to come with a microphone.
I'm right here. Over here.
Okay,
Hi.
can't see you. All right.
Nope, right here.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Massey Rich with Teach for America, where many of our alumni have gone on to start fantastic organizations, nonprofits, edtech ventures, et cetera. I wonder, Stacey, how you sort out when an investment is presented to you, the things that truly fill gaps and needs and the things that are merely cool or started by folks who just don't necessarily want to play in the larger system because of the frustrations that can come with, and where you really find the true values that serve needs that are unmet.
Yeah, it's a good question. We have 6 seconds for me to answer it, which is we try to be clear about what those gaps are and then communicate them absolutely as clearly as possible out to the rest of the world, or that world of burgeoning education entrepreneurs, so that people kind of coming in the door to us and into our pipelines at least have a sense of things that we care about. And then most importantly, we're learning all the time about what matters and what doesn't. It's one of the real benefits of having a fund like ours, where you can make lots of bets and follow them over time, give them lots of support, help them be more successful, and then kind of learn everything you can from all of those investments and put it to work for that next wave of entrepreneurs that are coming and trying very similar things. But I'd be happy to talk more with you about that.
All right, fantastic. Stacey Childress of NewSchools, thank you so much.